BMW is working on the new 7 Series and i7 side by side. You see, BMW thinks that Mercedes and Audi are doing things wrong by having a separate product line for their luxury electric car and their luxury internal combustion engine car. So in Mercedes you have the S-Class and the EQS, and they're completely different. Problem with that? Cost. Two different production lines. Whereas BMW is using the opposite approach for its i4 and 3 Series. So it's basically the same car and platform, but one is internal combustion engined, the other is battery powered. And that's how it's going to be for the 7 Series and the forthcoming i7. And I'm going to tell you all about those two cars in this video. Anyway, I'm Matt Watson and you're watching Car Wow.
Buying a new car? Then head to Car Wow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. Car Wow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
Let's start this video by talking about why I think there's going to be another 7 Series. It's quite simple. Heritage. They're not going to get rid of the 7 Series name, not yet anyway, where they can still be producing an internal combustion engine car. I also know there's going to be another 7 Series because of this. Yes, that's a picture from one of our spy photographers which clearly shows a new 7 Series, heavily camouflaged. Now I know it's a 7 Series because A, the spy photographer told me, B, if you look closely you can see the shape of a BMW kidney grille underneath that camo, and look at the size of it. It's bigger than a 5 Series, definitely bigger than a 3 Series, so it absolutely has to be the next 7 Series, and it's like to go on sale early 2023. So what exactly does that 7 Series look like underneath that camouflage? Well, if you look close at the front again, can you see the outlines for some daytime running lights above normal headlights? Also the grille, it's going to be bigger than before because BMW always increases the size of its grilles on each iteration of the 7 Series. So this is what our experts reckon it looks like. Oh my God. Now you're probably hoping that, you just made that, mate. It's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be much better looking. Well, do you know what? BMW has already hinted what it's going to look like because they've just unveiled the XM concept, and a lot of the features on the front of that car are going to inspire the look of the new 7 Series. So yeah, a bigger grille than the current 7 Series, the stacked daytime running lights, the huge air scoops at the front. It's going to look like that, people. Accept it. But you can also accept the fact it's still going to be a traditional 3-box saloon body style. So bonnet, passenger compartment, boot. At least that's traditional, eh? Now you've been suitably shocked, let's move on to the electric-powered i7. So here are some spy pictures of that car. Look at it driving there, being all electric. Now, how do I know it's electric and I'm not just showing you some more spy pictures of the 7 Series? Because the silhouette is exactly the same. Well, I've thought this through, people. If you look closely, it says electric test vehicle down the side. So that's definitely the i7, not the normal 7 Series, right? So what does the i7 look like underneath that camouflage? Well, have a look at this. Yeah, it's rather like the 7 Series, only that grille is blanked out and the air intakes low down are slightly different because being electric, it doesn't need all the cooling of an internal combustion engine car. In fact, the difference is rather similar to that between a 4 Series Grand Coupe and an i4. Not only is BMW saving money by building the i7 and the 7 Series using the same platform, for all its electric cars, it uses the same drive system. Now, they can vary the power output of the motors and the size of the battery, but it generally starts from 70 kilowatt hours and can go all the way up to 120 kilowatt hours. Now, if you take the maximum battery capacity of 120 kilowatt hours, the i7 should be capable of a range of just over 400 miles. Now, BMW have pretty much matched its battery size to that in the Mercedes EQS. The EQS can go slightly further, 450 miles, but that's because it's got a really aerodynamic shape. And obviously the 7 Series isn't as aerodynamic, so it'll have slightly less range. In terms of charging, it's going to charge at the same rate that you're going to be able to with the iX, which is 200 kilowatts, which means you'll be able to go from 10% full to 8% full in around 40 minutes. If you can find a 200 kilowatt charger, that is. Moving on to the motors, so BMW will yet again use the same motors across its electric cars. And if you mirror it to the i4, which starts with 340 horsepower, moving all the way up to 544 horsepower in the i4. Now the top of the range i4 is currently the i4 M50 that has 2 electric motors, one at the front, one at the back, and they drive all 4 wheels and produce a combined 544 horsepower. So there's probably going to be the same version of the i7. However, being the 7 Series, they'll probably want to give it a little bit more oomph. So it's likely it could have in excess of 550 horsepower. So what kind of performance will you expect from that car? Well, seeing as the i4 M50 does 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, the i7 M50, because it's slightly heavier, will take a little longer. Not much though, probably do 0 to 60 in between 4 and 4.5 seconds. As well as M-like cars, there's a good chance that for the first time ever, BMW is going to do a full fat M version of the i7 or the 7 Series, not sure which one yet. So let's look at the i7 first of all. So BMW has been caught testing a 5 Series, which is actually fitted with 3 electric motors, and the power output of that system is 720 horsepower. So that will go in an i7 based M car. However, they might take a different route and basically copy what AMG is doing with the GT 4-door hybrid. And BMW could use the hybrid system it's just unveiled in the new XM. So that's a 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 mated to electric motor with a combined output of 750 horsepower. Now they could do one or the other, or they might just do both, an MI7 and an M7 Series. Which would you prefer if you had a choice? Let me know in the comments below. So what about the performance of these two cars? Well, let's start with the MI7. So that tri-motor M5 test mule does 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. But then it is a test mule and it's probably been ramped up, and they're just publishing those figures to go to Tesla and its Plaid, which can do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. The reality is that a production version of the MI7 isn't going to be quite so quick, partly because I have to dial back the motors for longevity and because it's going to be heavier than the Plaid. So let's look at what Mercedes currently do. The AMG EQS 53, that does 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. So you can bet the BMW is probably going to be just around the 3-second mark. Now moving on to the hybrid, if you look at the AMG GT 4-door hybrid, that's got 840 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. Once again, the BMW is going to have a bit less power, so it's probably going to do 0 to 60 in around 3 to 3.5 seconds. So far, we've only really talked about performance for the i7 and 7 Series. What really matters though is luxury and rear passenger space. Now, one of the problems that Mercedes has had with the EQS is that it's not quite as roomy in the rear as the S-Class, and that's partly down to the design. The aerodynamic shape means there's a little less headroom. BMW won't have this problem with the i7 though, because the body is the same as the 7 Series. Now, as with the current 7 Series and the Mercedes S-Class and EQS, you're going to be able to get a normal 3-seater bench in the back or some opulent first-class style seating with just 2 individual luxury chairs. Hopefully they won't style the interior like the new XM though, because it's a little bit in your face, isn't it? Most likely they won't, because obviously the 7 Series and the i7 are for a more conservative customer. Finally, let's talk about pricing, starting with the normal 7 Series. So at the moment, the current generation car is priced around £73,000. However, it's quite old. When they introduce the new one, it's likely to rise to about £80,000, so it'll match the entry-level Mercedes S-Class like for like. Now, the EQS is about £20,000 more than the equivalent S-Class, so that starts at £100,000. But as I mentioned at the beginning, because Mercedes are having to build the EQS on an all-new platform, that is a lot more costly, and that cost is passed on to the consumer. And that's why the EQS is about 20% more expensive than the equivalent S-Class. It's not going to be the same with BMW. So you're probably looking at a starting price of around £90,000 for the i7 when it goes on sale early 2023.